Hi guys, welcome back to the Fourth and Gold NFL podcast. It's week 14, solo edition this week. You're going to get a video from me, a video from Rob and a video from Paul, giving our thoughts on the week that has just occurred and our thoughts on this week's games. So why don't we hop straight into my performance of the week. There was definitely a few candidates this week. I want to just give an honourable mention to Matt LaFleur, the Packers head coach, who I felt completely outcoached the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. They really out-schemed them. The offense was rolling. Jordan Love looked very good again. And even on defense, it just felt like the Chiefs didn't have the answers this week. So a quick shout out to them. They are now in contention for a playoff spot. I'm sure Paul and Rob were expecting me to name this team for performance of the week this week. I'm not going to. I'm definitely going to cover them later on in the show. But I'm going to give an honourable mention to my San Francisco 49ers, who, let's face it, beat the brakes off the Philadelphia Eagles. I didn't pick them for performance of the week because I just don't think that would have given it justice. It was, to me, the performance of the year. And as I said, we're going to cover that in a lot more detail later on in the show today. So performance of the week this week is going to go to the Cincinnati Bengals on Monday Night Football, going into Jacksonville without Joe Burrow now. And I just thought watching the game, Zach Taylor, great game plan. Jake Browning, my goodness me, we've seen a lot of bad backup quarterback play this year. You look at last night, Mitchell Trubisky, dreadful, absolutely appalling play. But Jake Browning really stepped it up in this game. I think he threw for 354 yards, one passing touchdown. He rushed for 22 yards, had a fairly physical quarterback sneak for a rushing touchdown as well. But it's not about the numbers, it's the throws that he made. He played really well, really stepped up for his team. And, a guy that I personally love, Jamar Chase. I said last week on the show, I felt bad for him because it felt like the rest of this season was going to be a waste for him. Well, did he prove me wrong on Monday night? I think he had 11 receptions for 150 yards with a touchdown. Man, just reminded us he's one of the best receivers in this league. I would only maybe take Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill ahead of him right now. For me, underrated the way that he's spoken about, and he's spoken about as a top 10 receiver, but to me that's underrated. They did get a bit of fortune with the Trevor Lawrence injury. I feel like if Lawrence stays in the game, there's a good chance the Jaguars get the job done. But he didn't. Jake Browning stepped up. They won the game. Their hopes are alive. Let's see how Jake Browning continues to play. Was this a one-off? Or are we going to see more of this? Because, if he plays like that every week, they have a shot at least to make some noise. Whether it's making the playoffs, having an upset. I don't think they can get to the Super Bowl, but let's see how far they can go. Great story. So moving on to Step It Up this week. I initially had it as the Patriots offense. Whether it's good Patriots or bad Steelers, last night they kind of did step up. So I'm going to move past them now, and I'm going to shift the Step It Up to, unfortunately, Paul, it's your Pittsburgh Steelers. the last 2 weeks now, well, Sunday and last night, what can you say? The Steelers were in great position to make the playoffs, but then they fall to a 2-10 Cardinals and I think a 2-win Patriots. Patriots, bear in mind, have lost the last 3 games. Last week they didn't score, and they only gave up 10 points as a maximum in each of those games. I mean, they lost 6-0 last week. That's a football score, not an NFL score. Very odd. But Mitchell Trubisky, in particular, has looked atrocious. He doesn't even look like a backup caliber NFL quarterback at times. The reads are terrible. Just the play is not good. And watching the game, from yesterday, he had time in the pocket a lot, right? It's not like he was getting the ball and within a split second he was getting taken down. He had time, but he did nothing with it. And my message really to the Steelers is really about next year. Don't let this happen again next year. This is not a good situation. I know that they've got unlucky in a way with Kenny Pickett's injury. That also is a concern moving forward for me. I think Pickett has shown a lot of promise, more than most maybe, that he can be a functional quarterback. I'm not saying he's ever going to be a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes, but he can certainly do a job. My concern, though, is that he is getting injured a lot. So that's something that, is a concern moving forward. But looking at the other options, Trubisky, his time in Pittsburgh needs to be over. If they move on, if they bench him this week, you're looking at Mason Rudolph, who again, not a great option, really not. It's a difficult one for this Steelers team. They really should have won the last 2 games. I think that would have put them on 9 wins. And, at that point, they're very close to making the playoffs. But now they do have to step it up because they are right back in the mix of all the teams vying for those wild card spots. And you are looking at some difficult teams here that you don't want them to wake up. And yes, I'm talking about the Buffalo Bills, a team like that has underperformed this year, and they're coming off their bye week this week, and they are not going to go away easily. And so the Steelers have really missed an opportunity here to build a gap over teams like that. A lot of work to be done. Pittsburgh Steelers, step it up, please, because it's a team that I naturally will root for, given it's Paul's team. It's a team that I've always had much admiration and respect for, and I want to see them do well. I love Mike Tomlin. I don't know who doesn't. Step it up, Steelers. We know that you're better than this. So let's move on to my top 5 teams as of week 14. Chiefs are dropping out. The Chiefs are dropping out. I'm really concerned with them now. As I said when I mentioned Matt LaFleur in Performance of the Week, just felt like they got out-coached. Like, it wasn't a case of there was many drops this week by receivers, anything like that. I know Mahomes threw a bad interception, but just on both sides of the ball, they had a chance at the end, but it really didn't feel like they deserved it. It felt like the Packers really, really outplayed them, got out-coached, executed better, and they come away with the win, and rightly so. So they drop out. So at number 5, a re-entry, is the Miami Dolphins. Now, we know what the Dolphins have been so far. they have beaten the teams that they're supposed to beat, and they've beaten them very well. Very well. They've struggled in the games against the bigger teams. So I think they have 3 losses on the year. They lost to the Bills in a blowout. That was, completely one-sided. But you look at the other 2 losses, and I think maybe we've criticised them a little bit too heavily. They lost to the Eagles in Philadelphia in a fairly close game. I mean, the Eagles had a reasonable lead for most of the game, but they were within touching distance. They fell short. Okay. They then lost to the Chiefs in Germany. Yeah, I mean, I think they were down 21-0 in that game. They got it back to 21-14. Again, they fell short. So they have fallen short against the bigger teams so far. But that's not to say that has to continue. They now control their own destiny. They are the number 1 seed in the AFC. So it's on them to keep it that way. And if they do, who knows? Whoever comes to town in Miami, they'll be in their elements where they want to play. Let's see what happens. They've obviously got the most dangerous weapon in the NFL in Tyreek Hill, who is on a mission to break Calvin Johnson, aka Megatron's receiving record. But not only that, I think he wants the title of having the 2,000-yard receiving season, and he is very, very close now to doing that. At number 4, a similar story, almost the NFC equivalent of the Dolphins, I'd say, is the Dallas Cowboys. Again, they are beating everyone that they're supposed to beat, and they're beating them, by and large, very well. It's the bigger games that they've struggled in so far. At least to win. They got their first win over a team with a winning record last week in the Seahawks. Very close game, very good game to watch. But you look at their losses. Yeah, they had the weird anomaly losing to the Cardinals. They got destroyed by the San Francisco 49ers. And then they lost a close one against the Eagles. And it's a game that they probably should have won. It came down to just a few inches. So, again, that's what's happened so far. It's not to say that that's going to continue. Let's see what happens this week. Because this is a massive game for a number of teams. And we'll talk about that in more detail later on. At number 3, they didn't play this week. It is the Baltimore Ravens. As I said last week, I've got a few concerns on the offense now. They've been a bit inconsistent overall, I'd say. But when they're running hot, they are running hot. Like, they are a unit that is very difficult to stop. Defensively, they have been excellent. They don't have the star-studded names on the defensive line, but they are damn good. It's exactly what you expect from the Ravens. They execute. It's a defense that will suffocate you. My only concern is if the offense isn't getting enough first downs to sustain drives, you're gonna get gassed. And we saw it in their last game against the Chargers. They lent on their defense a little bit too much. They could have lost that game. The 10-point win didn't really reflect what was going on in that fourth quarter. But all of that aside, this is still a great team. This is a team I feel can win the AFC. It's who I said was going to get to the AFC Championship before the season started. So let's see. Got some big games coming up. Christmas Day, Ravens, 49ers. Can't wait for that one. At number 2 this week, it's the first time they've dropped in 4 weeks from the number 1 spot. It is the Philadelphia Eagles. I think there's been a bit of an overreaction this week with what happened on Sunday. Yes, the San Francisco 49ers did really, really dominate that game. The Eagles didn't have any answers, really. They started the game well with A.J. Brown, on the slant route, breaking a few tackles, but they couldn't finish those drivers off. So the 49ers, after one quarter, had negative offensive yards and were only down 6. And we saw what happened when they woke up. I think that, people are now discrediting the Philadelphia Eagles, but they are still the team in control of what can happen moving forward. They still sit as the number 1 seed. They are still a great team. And as a 49ers fan, I have great respect for this team. This is the team that I feel stands in the 49ers' way to get to the Super Bowl. I know it was a great performance. I know it was a great result. I'm not going to just draw all my conclusions off one regular season game. I feel we are destined to meet in the NFC Championship again. I guess the concern would be Jalen Hurts dealing with this knee issue. I know that he kind of was, I guess, assessed for concussion during the game. They need to kind of get him healthy, and there was a call for him to maybe not play this week. I think he probably should play this week against the Cowboys. It's a massive game. If you can avoid changing your quarterback for a game like this, I would steer away from that. They have Seattle the week after that, and if they win those 2 games, I possibly would say, look, if Jalen Hurts is carrying injury, let's give him some rest now. They got 3 games to end, 2 against the Giants, 1 against the Cardinals. I think Mariota will do enough to win those games. So they are still a very good team. You would be crazy, absolutely crazy, to write them off at this stage. Which means at number 1 on my top 5 teams this week, it's been a long absence from the number 1 spot. It is my San Francisco 49ers. Performance of the week, performance of the year. Wow. I was a little bit nervous after that first quarter. Not going to lie. We went 3 and out twice. The Eagles moved the ball down the field and we had negative 6 yards on the first quarter. But as soon as Shanahan figured it out, wow, 6 drives, 6 touchdowns. I honestly don't know where to start with this one. I guess it has to be with my favourite player in the NFL. I've got a lot of favourites, but this is my absolute favourite player in the NFL. It is Deebo Samuel. When he gets going, the 49ers are unstoppable. Christian McCaffrey, his trade pushed the 49ers offense over the top. There's too many weapons to handle. But for me, when Deebo Samuel gets going, oh boy, this is a different level of an already high-octane offense. And we saw it in this game. I mean, Deebo, on the first touchdown, it was kind of a reverse sweep. Really great play from Shanahan. But it was the second one. It was Brock Purdy, throw over the middle to Deebo. Linebacker coming in, makes the tackle. Deebo said, "Get off me." And just took it 50 yards to the house. No one could stop him. And I think the third touchdown is the one that it might not have been as, should we say, electrifying as the second one, but it really just told you who the 49ers are. Wide receiver screen. And if you see the blocking on this play, Deebo is running like the parting of the Red Sea. It was just pure domination, pure physicality, and Deebo walked into the end zone. Brock Purdy, excellent performance. he could have crumbled after that first quarter when it wasn't going our way. He did not. He made plays. He got everyone involved. Brandon Ayuk had a touchdown. Debo obviously had 3 touchdowns. Our third down clutch man, Juwan Jennings, had a touchdown. Again, similar to Debo. Not quite as, shall we say, extravagant, but again, get off me. My will is stronger than yours, and I'm getting in the end zone. Yeah, what can I say? McCaffrey, another touchdown for him. How do you stop this offense? There's too many weapons, with an asterisk, when healthy. And that is the key for the 49ers moving forward. Can we stay healthy? Because when everyone is on the field, I'm struggling to see a team that can live with this. Who do you double? If you don't double, McCaffrey can get going. So if you put someone in the hole to stop McCaffrey's run, you've got Ayuk, Debo, George Kittle, Juwan Jennings, all single covered. That's a dangerous situation in itself. So it's pick your poison with the 49ers. I think what is probably most scary about this game is watching it. I didn't feel like Shanahan really did anything extra outside of the regular offensive scheme. I can probably pick one play where we snap the ball to Brock. Initially, Kittle is blocking, but it's kind of, one of those block and releases. And it was a very simple play. Kittle makes the block, releases, Purdy throws it to him, and he runs for 20, 30 yards in clean air. But that was just a little nugget. Like, everything else is what we do every week. And if that's the case, I'm sure that Shanahan has a lot more in the tank, come playoff time. So, yeah, number 1 team right now, performance of the year, San Francisco 49ers. Come on, you Niners. As we move on, we wanted to do something a bit different this week, where I think over the last few weeks, I've grown a bit tired of hearing the MVP discussion, because all we're hearing is quarterback A, quarterback B, quarterback C, quarterback D. And I'm looking at the season and I just don't feel there has been an outstanding quarterback performance this year. Outside really of one man, number 7 in Houston, my man CJ Strikes, aka CJ Stroud. I think for him to win it, the Texans have to make the playoffs. He'd have to continue playing at the level that he's been playing. I mean, 20 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, taking a team that was completely irrelevant into the playoffs, potentially throwing for 5,000 yards, not garbage time yards, real yards. I think he would be worthy, but when you look at the usual suspects and the way that the format works, it has to be the number 1 seed or the number 2 seed, the quarterback for that team. Do we really think that Jalen Hurts is worthy of MVP? He's had 17 turnovers, the same as Josh Allen, in terms of interceptions and fumbles. But it doesn't feel like that gets talked about because, wins and losses. But can we really say that he's been that valuable to them to win those games? Again, the number 1 seed in the AFC, I guess, is Tua right now. It was Lamar Jackson. These are the names that are coming up for MVP. And maybe, you look at the stats for Tua and say, well, the stats are off the charts. That's what people want to see. Tua is the perfect person to talk about right now, because what we want to do is pick our MVP, but not a quarterback. And for me, if I was picking today, my MVP would be Tyreek Hill. And this is no slight against Tua, who has definitely won me over this year. I think that he continues to get better. He definitely commands his offense. He can make a ton of throws. I have completely U-turned on my feelings about his arm talent now. Yes, it's not Josh Allen, cannon, but it's accurate. He can throw downfield. But for me, the most valuable player to any team right now is Tyreek Hill, who I think is the most dangerous player in the NFL. You ask any defensive coordinator who they don't want to see on Sunday, who they don't want to have to game plan for, I guarantee the majority of people will say Tyreek Hill. And I know McCaffrey, of course I know how valuable Christian McCaffrey has been to the 49ers. But I look at it this way. If the 49ers lost Christian McCaffrey, that would really hurt the offense. But I think that the offense could still function to a high level. It certainly wouldn't be at the level with CMC, but I think it would still function well. I have more question marks about the Dolphins offense if Tyreek Hill was not on the field. That, to me, says why he is the MVP this year, if it's not a quarterback, because he's just devastating. The speed, he's going to probably reach this 2,000-yard season, and it would really sum up exactly who he is. Like, he is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, best weapons in the NFL in general. He's not just a receiver. You just need to get the ball in his hands and he'll do the rest. And as I said, no slight to Tua, who's having an amazing season. But yeah, my MVP for this year would go to Tyreek Hill. Not a quarterback, because we're only 3 years removed from Aaron Rodgers' MVP year, where he threw 48 touchdowns to, I think, 5 interceptions, over 4,000 yards. Yeah, okay, the yards weren't as high as years past. Like Mahomes last year threw for 5,000 yards, over 40 touchdowns. It's those caliber of seasons that I feel make MVP worthy for a quarterback. And right now, I know we've got 5 games left, but right now I just don't see it from, a lot of these players outside of possibly CJ Stroud if he continues with his form. So yeah, that is my MVP choice through week 14. I guess we're moving on to game picks now. So very interesting week of games this week. I'm going to start with our records. Paul sits on 121 wins to 72 losses. He went 10-3 last week, so very solid week. I think the upsets were what caught him out and Rob and I out. That sits him at 62.7% win. Rob's in second, 124 wins to 69 losses. That's a 64.2% win rate. And at number one, your boy stays at the top, 127 wins to 66 losses. That's a 65.8% win rate. Looking at the games this week, I have a feeling that Rob, Paul, and I are going to have a lot of disagreements because this is, for me, a wild week of games. Okay, so game picks for week 14. We had Thursday night football last night. I think we all had picked the Steelers, forgetting how bad Mitchell Trubisky really is. So not the greatest start for Paul, Rob, and I this week, but hopefully we can make amends on Sunday. So, first game of the week, we've got Buccaneers at Falcons. My, where to begin here? These two teams are very inconsistent, I'd say. The Buccaneers have put up a good fight in a lot of their games, but they've also lost games that I was thinking they would win. Okay, they beat the Panthers last week. It wasn't overly convincing, but it was comfortable enough. I think we have to give a shout out to, Hall of Fame in waiting, Mike Evans, his 10th 1,000-yard receiving season in a row. He's the only player in NFL history to do that in his first 10 years. The only other player that has done it is the GOAT, Jerry Rice, who did it from year 2 to year 11. He had something like 934 yards in his rookie season. And Jerry Rice is the only receiver that has had more 1,000-yard receiving seasons at 14. So I think when you get to a point in your career as a receiver where only Jerry Rice has done more than what you've done, or you're very close to what Jerry Rice has done, that kind of tells you that you're a Hall of Fame level receiver. And Mike Evans went into that game last week needing about 150 yards, I think, and he sort of thought, I'm not going to risk it. I'll just give it all today. So shout out to Mike Evans. The Falcons took care of business, I guess, against the Jets. It was one of those games where just don't make a mistake. Don't let the Jets defense win the game. They handled it. It wasn't overly impressive. I don't think that this will be a great game. I'm definitely on the fence. Who do I trust more? I think the Falcons did win this game in Tampa earlier this season. I think the Buccaneers have just let me down a few too many times this year. So somehow, some way, I'm picking the Falcons to win. But I don't feel confident about it. It's not a team that has given me much confidence in the year. And they've certainly handed me my fair share of losses. So we'll go with the Falcons at home. Next up, we've got Ravens at Rams. Matthew Stafford is still damn good. I don't want to hear anything else about him. When he was at the Lions, yes, they lost a lot of games. He was not supported with great talent. You can't win. You can't sustain a winning franchise just with Matthew Stafford and Megatron, as great as they were. We saw what happened when he joined the Rams. He had a great support, and year one wins the Super Bowl. So point proven. I think what I want to just say is he uplifts this current team. This current team is not a Super Bowl caliber team, and it's a team that I'm sure a lot of people felt at the start of the season wasn't going to do very well. But look at them. All credit to Sean McVay. They are fighting. Definitely, I could see them making the playoffs, making a wild card spot. When they played the 49ers earlier this season, God, that was a game that I thought we were going to lose. They really, their offensive scheme had us in big trouble. You look at this receiving core of Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, who, outside of CJ Stroud, would be in line for Rookie of the Year. Tutu Atwell, there's a lot of speed here. This feels like they might get a reality check, though, because the Ravens are coming off the bye week. I know Lamar doesn't like to talk about it, but we know his NFC record is almost perfect. I think he's had one loss and 19 or 20 wins now. The one loss coming last year somehow, some way, to the Giants, where I think he threw an interception late in the game in his own territory, but otherwise unblemished. We've seen a number of teams come to Baltimore, and we were expecting a good game. And the Ravens completely blew them away. The Lions, the Seahawks. What will happen this week? Ravens win. I believe the spread is 7.5. I think that they will cover that. But as I said earlier, I'm not convinced by the Ravens offense right now. I need them to show me their full potential again. And maybe they will this week. But yeah, certainly going with the Ravens win. Oh, wow. Lions at Bears. The Lions beat the Bears 3 weeks ago, but they shouldn't have. They were down double digits with a few minutes to go. All credit to the Lions. Jared Goff hit Jameson Williams for a big touchdown. That gave them life. They turned it around. But they have been stuttering these last few weeks. They got embarrassed at Thanksgiving by the Packers. They sort of looked like they were bouncing back against the Saints. 21-0. And then somehow the game got very, very close. But they saw it out. So that will give them, some, I don't want to say confidence, but just belief that we are a good team. And they are. They've done very well for themselves. But I am nervous about them, given it's been a bit rocky. Shout out to my man from Iowa, Sam Laporta. Was it 150 receiving yards last week? This guy just quietly goes about his business, and I'm here for it. Big time player. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 1,000-yard season, a lot more to come. When they're rolling, this offense is very hard to stop, but they're not quite rolling as they were a few weeks ago. Maybe the weight of expectation is now hitting them. I don't know. The Bears, I believe, did not play last week. They are coming off the bye. They upset the Vikings. They should have upset the Lions. Difficult one when we're in December and we've seen a lot of upsets recently. The Bears defense has played pretty well over the last few weeks. I'm doing it. Upset alert. I'm taking the Bears this week. The Lions are just going to have to prove to me that this rocky period is over. So I am going to go with the Bears at home. I'm sure this is a chance to have an egg on my face, but upsets are happening. It's December, so expect the unexpected in the NFL. Okay, Colts at Bengals. Wow, this is another tricky one. We've got a Colts team that are now riding, I think, a 4 or 5 game win streak with Gardner Minshew, who can make plays. Him and Michael Pittman Jr. clearly have bonded now. But then we've got the Bengals, who are coming off a great win against the Jaguars. This is a real tricky one for me because it's that question mark. Was that a one-off performance for Jake Browning, or is this what we're going to see from the Bengals moving forward? The Colts defense has definitely stepped up themselves. Yes, they played some bad teams, but then they took care of the Buccaneers, who, not the best team, but not one of the worst teams either. I'm going to roll with the hot hand. Well, you could look at the hot hand in both directions, but I'm going to roll with the Bengals. Being at home, I'm going to expect Jake Browning not maybe to play as well as he did last week, but to play pretty well. And if he does that, he gives them a chance. And, you look at the weapons that this offense has. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins is now back. That gives you Tyler Boyd as your third option. Joe Mixon from out the backfield. The defense is very good. You can't run on them. Bengals to win that one. Texans at Jets. The return of Zach Wilson. Some odd circumstances this week, I think. There was the talk that he didn't want to play. Then there was the talk that he sort of was moaning that he wasn't playing. Robert Saleh saying that he wasn't quite there, but then announced that he was the starter. Some odd circumstances in the Jets building. A lot of leaks now. A lot of dysfunction, seems. CJ Stroud and the Texans came through a tricky game last week, and it was almost a banana slip. They dominated the game. Dominated. But the scoreline didn't say that. It was close. The Broncos defense kept them in it. Kept them, I wouldn't say close, but within distance where the game was not over. And they came back. So lesson learned, I think, for the Texans, that you've got to put teams away. Otherwise it can come back to bite you. The loss of Tank Dell is huge. He and CJ Stroud had obviously formed quite the partnership. CJ Stroud, very emotional in the press conference afterwards, cares about his teammates. Defensively, the Texans made the big plays last week to sort of seal that game. Will Anderson's tip that caused the interception. That was a big deal. And then Jimmy Ward sealing the game with the interception at the end. It's a team on the rise, but you can see that it's a new team. So there's a lot that they haven't experienced yet. This game, though, as always with Jets games, do not make errors on your side. Don't turn the ball over and let the Jets defense win the game, because that's how you'll lose it. You don't have to necessarily be high-flying offense this week, but this is a better offense than the Jets faced last week in the Falcons. Without Tank Dell, CJ Stroud will simply go to his original number one target this year, which was Nico Collins. He had a massive game last week. I think it was 190 receiving yards. But he's got plenty of weapons that, when I say plenty of weapons that he has helped grow in confidence and belief. The likes of Noah Brown, who has had a few drops, but the passing game has opened up the run game. You got Singletary, you got Dameon Pierce, an angry runner. You always love an angry runner. Zach Wilson. Behind that offensive line, I think people like to pick on Zach Wilson a bit too much. We seem to forget that the Jets have historically a terrible offensive line. They give their quarterbacks no chance at all. If you think that it would have been significantly better with Aaron Rodgers this year, I'm sorry, but I disagree. Yes, Rodgers would have been better, but that offensive line is not good enough. Simple as that. In the off-season, address it, Jets. If you don't address anything else, you've got to address your offensive line. I think the Texans win this game. I don't think CJ Stroud will make too many mistakes, and he's a big play monster. I expect another big game from him. I'm not saying blowout, because the Jets defense is a great defense overall, but I think the Texans will win this one more comfortably than they did last week against the Broncos. Jaguars at Browns. Now, Trevor Lawrence is nursing, I believe, a high ankle sprain, or an ankle sprain at the very least. If he plays, then I will pick the Jaguars to win this game. It is a must-have after losing to the Bengals. The Texans are right there. You thought with the win in Houston to propel them 2 games ahead, it's looking like the Jaguars' division again. This is a tough stretch for them. And the Browns are you will not walk over this team. I think the Browns defensively have not quite been at the level they were earlier in the season, but they're still very good. And with Joe Flacco at quarterback, he did a pretty good job, didn't he, last week in his first start. The loss of Christian Kirk, I don't know I must admit, I don't know the extent of that if he is out this week. I'm going to assume he is. And they did get a lot of injuries on Monday night. Tricky one. Very tricky indeed. I think, though, when the Jaguars are at their best, it's almost like the Ravens. They're very hard to play against. But they've just been just a little bit, a hair inconsistent at times. If Trevor Lawrence starts, I'm going to take the Jaguars. And if he doesn't, I will take the Browns. Panthers at Saints. Panthers, a terrible situation, I feel like. I don't like the way the owner has handled his organisation. I feel for Bryce Young. By all means, he seems like a great individual. He obviously has, some talent, but he's not got a lot of talent around him. The Saints, you can't trust them. I don't know what to say about them, really. They went 21-0 down against the Lions, bravely fought back. You thought the momentum might have been with them to complete the comeback. They couldn't get it done. But they should beat the Panthers. The Panthers are a bad team. Dysfunction now exists in the organisation thanks to the owner. If the Saints they want any chance of making the playoffs, they've got to win this one. And they can definitely make the playoffs. The division is up for grabs. It's a poor division. Saints win this one. Vikings at Raiders. Very intriguing game. The Vikings, they get back the best receiver in the NFL for my money in Justin Jefferson. He says that his goal is to reach 1,000 yards. That means he has to have, I'd say, probably 100 plus yards receiving in every game moving forward. That could be difficult with Josh Dobbs at quarterback. That was quite an ugly performance last time out, a couple of weeks ago at home to the Bears. The Raiders have definitely shown fight under Antonio Pierce. Difficult one. I think I've got to go with the Vikings, though. The Justin Jefferson factor is too big for me. If he's not involved, it means that he's getting double covered, which means that the guys that have had to step up in his absence now become the second, third option. Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. I just feel like the presence of Justin Jefferson alone will elevate this offense and they'll make enough plays to win this game. Defensively, like I keep saying, they've been much improved from last year. Brian Flores, still a great coach, and he's showing it this year with that defense. Vikings win. Moving on to some of the late games. Seahawks at 49ers. The Seahawks, a valiant effort in Dallas last week. I wasn't expecting that. They've sort of taken a beating from a lot of these big teams this year. If you look at what happened at the Ravens on Thanksgiving at home to the 49ers. I think it will be closer than that game. But I'm clearly taking the 49ers to win this game. the 49ers are fully healthy. And when they are fully healthy, that is a difficult offense to stop. It is a difficult defense to break down. The arrival of Chase Young has just had this defense reborn. Bosa has been making a ton of plays. Javon Hargrave, the Grave Digger, love that nickname, has been, I think, a great player for this 49ers defense. And now Chase Young, I mean, with rotation behind. There's a chance Eric Armstead doesn't play. That gives Javon Kinlaw a chance to step up. The two Javons at defensive tackle. We still have the likes of Drake Jackson, Randy Gregory in the rotation behind, so we can stay fresh. Yeah, it could be another difficult day for Geno Smith. I just don't think it will be a complete blowout. The spread is, I think, 10.5. I'm going to say that the 49ers do cover that. Now, to one of the games of the week, I think. And it comes with the Bills at the Chiefs. Joshua Patrick Allen versus Patrick Lavon Mahomes II. For my money, the two greatest quarterbacks of this current era. I love these guys. I love watching them play, and I love watching them play against each other. Now, their teams aren't as good, or they certainly haven't performed as well as years past. I definitely feel that both quarterbacks have been taken for granted by their organizations, sort of thinking that they could cut corners on their offenses. You look at the Chiefs, they let Tyreek Hill walk out the door. Yes, they won the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, they lost that trade. They had Juju Smith-Schuster last year, who was productive, and unfortunately he walked out the door. So you're looking at the Chiefs' offense now, and it's a very small trust tree for Mahomes. It's Travis Kelce, the emergence of Rashee Rice, and their run game in Isaiah Pacheco. But outside of that, you look at the other guys, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, $10 million a year. He's not cutting it. What they wanted out of Kadarius Toney, he shows flashes, but flashes aren't enough. There's no consistency there. And Sky Moore, Mecole Hardman, these guys just aren't making a big enough impact for Mahomes to trust them enough. Justin Watson is the one I feel that Mahomes, while the volume usually isn't high, he's the one guy that Mahomes goes to in some big moments. Maybe similar to Juwan Jennings of the 49ers. Those sort of big third downs where Kelsey's probably covered. Maybe Rashee Rice is now getting the attention. You're not going to run it. Justin Watson. The Bills are coming off the bye week after a devastating loss to the Eagles. We saw the very best of Josh Allen in that game. If you want to criticize him for the interception that he threw and blame him for the loss, I can't help you. He was, outside of that, amazing in that game. He lit the Eagles' secondary up. The runs he made, just pure will to win the game for his team. The thing that let them down was the play at the end, their last offensive play, where I guess Gabriel Davis thought it was a corner route. Josh Allen's getting blitzed. He thought it was an option route, so he just threw the streak because Gabriel Davis had beaten the corner. And miscommunication. They had to settle for a field goal. Bills' defense was gassed at that point. The Eagles drove the field, won the game. Highly disappointing going into a bye week. This is a very difficult game to judge. It's the two best quarterbacks in the league for my money, but two teams that have been, two rosters that have been fairly underwhelming. Both defenses are playing well, so Don't get me wrong. I don't think it will be a high-scoring game because of the offensive struggles for both of these teams. This really is a toss-up. I mean, Josh Allen has gone into Kansas City the last 2 years and won. Will that continue for a third year? Mahomes coming off a loss is always dangerous. You know, he won't be happy with his individual performance. He will definitely come and play at his best this week, at the best he can offer. Not sure the others around him can live up to that, but he will certainly be at his best. If I'm the Bills, I'm looking at, like I said after the Germany game, the Dolphins gave you the blueprint. Double Travis Kelce, take him out of the game and say, you've got to beat us with your receivers. You've got to beat us with Rashee Rice, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore. See if you can do it. I think that's a good game plan. We're looking at the Bills' offense. Dalton Kincaid is now in Josh Allen's trust tree. Stephon Diggs continues to let you down in very big moments, but he is productive. Gabriel Davis, my friend Gabriel Davis, he had a massive game against the Eagles. Will that continue? His claim to fame actually came at Arrowhead Stadium, as it used to be called, in that, game of all time in the playoffs, Bills v Chiefs. He had 200 receiving yards. I think it was 4 touchdowns. And after that, he was proclaimed as an elite receiver. We haven't seen it for the most part. We'll see what he can deliver this week. And then they've got Shakir as their sort of speedster. They're not far off, I don't think. They definitely need an offensive-minded coach next year. James Cook at running back, I think, will be better than he's shown in a scheme that is run-friendly, because right now, this year has not been good in terms of the run game. It's a real toss-up for me. I love these two quarterbacks. I'm going to ride with the Bills, given that they're coming off the bye week. They played an extremely high level against the Eagles, one of the best teams in the NFL. The Chiefs are coming off a bad loss to the Packers, who, yes, they're ascending, but they're not one of the elite of the NFL. I'm worried about the coaching from the Chiefs now. Matt Nagy is not the answer. Eric Bieniemy, a huge loss that we're seeing now in Kansas City. I'm going to take the Bills to win. It's going to be close. Another installment of Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes, which I'm more than happy to see again. Broncos at Chargers. What are we going to get from these teams? The Chargers, they beat the Patriots 6-0. Very odd game. The Broncos were getting dominated by the Texans. Absolutely dominated. But the scoreline did not reflect that. The Texans really... Well, I don't want to say the Texans let them off. The Broncos' defense made plenty of stops that kept them in the game. And I was sitting there watching it thinking, the Broncos are not dead here. Like, they will come back into this game. And they probably should have won the game in the end. If not for a great play by Will Anderson. Just after the Broncos had scored a touchdown, Wilson throws to the flat. Will Anderson gets a hand on it. It gets tipped for an interception. The Texans were able to get back in control. But it still came down to the last play of the game, where Jimmy Ward, former 49ers safety, got the game-ending interception. You could look at Russell Wilson's stat sheet and say, oh, well, he threw for three interceptions, but you need to look at the context of those interceptions. One was tipped, one was at the end of the game. They definitely still need to improve on offense. Like they're better. They're definitely better than where they were, but it needs to continue to rise. And this Chargers team, you never know what you're going to get. I love Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, unbelievable season for him. With Mike Williams' injury early on in the season, Keenan Allen has had to really step up and carry the load because a few of their other receivers have been underwhelming this year. Austin Eckler, obviously, massive player for this offense. It's in LA, but I just can't trust the Chargers still. I'm sorry. As much as I want to for Herbert, the coaching is what concerns me. Yes, shutout against the Patriots. It's always impressive to have a shutout, but that Patriots offense is not good. So I am going to go with the coaching in this one, and I'm going to trust Sean Payton, Russell Wilson, and this ascending Denver Broncos defense. Right, moving on to the Sunday night football game. Wow. Eagles at Cowboys. Wow. What a game this is. If the 49ers beat the Seahawks, the Eagles have to win this game to maintain the number one seed and, I believe, maintain the lead in their division. So they could, I believe they could be as low as the number 5 seed if they were to lose this game in Dallas. I just want to say one thing. Lane Johnson, my goodness me, what an elite player he is. For the most part of that game last week against the 49ers, he put Nick Bosa and Chase Young in a box. And that's not an easy thing to do. And he's coming off... He's not even 100%. He's coming off injury. Great tackle. Just speaks to how great the Eagles' offensive line is. When you look at last week, yes, Jalen Hurts had some sacks, but they were coverage sacks. It's not what I was expecting. The 49ers secondary did a pretty good job, while the Eagles' offensive line definitely won the battle there. Like, they gave Hurts great protection throughout the game. So I'm not really sure what happened, because with AJ Brown, with Devontae Smith, you've got, easily 2 number 1 receivers there. The problem for the Eagles is this passing defense, though. They continue to get passed on. We saw it with Josh Allen. We saw it last week with the 49ers. Even in this first meeting between the Cowboys and the Eagles, CeeDee Lamb went crazy. This is really tricky because the Cowboys have the momentum. They are unbeaten at home. In fact, I think they've won something like 14 or 15 home games straight. But great teams like the Eagles, they bounce back. They do bounce back. My concern, though, and this is what makes the Eagles scary, my concern is that they continue to play at a B grade. Like, they have never reached their full potential yet this year. That's what is definitely scary for a 49ers fan come the playoffs. I don't think they're going to reach their A game this week either. So it's a question of, will Dallas execute well enough to win the game? Because they executed very well in Philadelphia, but not quite well enough. Just a few margins. Dak stepped out of bounds. Touchdown throw being thrown inches short of the end zone. I think the Cowboys know how close they are, and I feel that this is the week they win a big game. I think this will be extremely high scoring. Will be probably the best game to watch of the week. It will be back and forth, lots of offense. I'm going to take, and I might be being biased here because it's what I want to happen. I'm going to take the Cowboys to win this game. Which leaves us with a Monday night doubleheader. That's quite random to have a doubleheader now. I don't think we tend to do that other than in week 1 or week 2. So we'll start off with the Titans at Dolphins. Will Levis airing out his dirty laundry, calling out DeAndre Hopkins. Don't think that that's a great idea. I think they've reconciled now, which is great. But yeah, know your place a little bit, rookie. You want to be in this league, right? Well, keep your receivers on side. The last thing you want is for DeAndre Hopkins to check out on you. That was not a great look. I think he'll learn from it. I don't see the Titans having any chance of an upset against this Dolphins team. The Titans defense just isn't quite what it has been the last few years. The Dolphins are at home. Tyreek Hill is on a mission. They're playing very well. The defense has stepped up, particularly since Jalen Ramsey has arrived on the scene. Yeah, I think Dolphins win this game easily. And lastly, Packers at Giants. Tommy DeVito versus Jordan Love. The Giants' defense just hasn't been quite the same since they traded Leonard Williams. That's almost like it's a loss of talent, but the defense probably lost a bit of faith in the organization when they make a move like that. The Packers are executing at a high level all of a sudden. All credit to Matt LaFleur. All credit to Jordan Love, proving the haters like Colin Cowherd, who wanted him gone after 6 games, proving them wrong. So long may that continue for Jordan Love. It's a young group. Christian Watson definitely has shown signs that he can be a number 1 receiver for this team. I hope that there's a change in the vision or the philosophy of the Packers moving forward. They need to be more aggressive in free agency. I'm not saying give out big contracts to anyone, but don't just draft and develop. You've got to do more than that if you want to be a real player in this NFL now. This is a win now league. But all credit to them. Their defense is playing at a far higher level than I could ever have imagined. Giants at home. Mission stop Saquon Barkley and you win the game, I think. Tommy DeVito, yes, he's shown a bit more than he did to begin with. That was a very low floor to start with. Packers win. Now, moving on to the last segment, best bets of the week. I know I said it wouldn't be a high-scoring game, but I'm going to Bills, Chiefs, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes over 275 passing yards. It's 3-1. I think these are the 2 best quarterbacks in the league. When they meet, their level generally does go up a notch. I can't say no to this. 3-1. And then lastly, another special comes in the Seahawks 49ers game. Brock Purdy over 250 passing yards, Brandon Ayuk over 80 receiving yards, and Christian McCaffrey over 80 rushing yards. That is 9-2. So give me some of that for an offense that is absolutely rolling. And I can see the 49ers once again putting up 30 plus points in the game. So yeah, that is this week's solo edition of the Fourth and Goal podcast from me. Keep a lookout for Paul and Rob's thoughts on the games this week, and we will regroup collectively next week for week 15. Enjoy the games, take care, and thanks for watching.